Welcome to the Apple a Day podcast. My name is Michelle Apples. If you don't know me, I am the founder of the Christian Singles Hub, a space where Christian singles can be equipped with the resources they need to grow towards greatness, put their faith in action, and to date with purpose. Healthy relationships only come from healthy individuals. So join me every Wednesday as we interview some incredible guests and give you all the wisdom you need to steward your singleness better. We hope you enjoy the show, and don't forget to check out our website at thechristiansingleshub.com. Welcome back to another episode of an Apple a Day podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Apples, and so thrilled to be here. If y'all don't know, I am your host. I am the founder of the Christian Singles Hub, which is a business I started back in 2020. We've seen so much growth. We've seen God do just incredible things. We host retreats and events and online events and all sorts of things. We have some amazing things coming up. We have summer camp, our second annual summer camp 2024 coming up June 14th to 17th, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Go look at the website in Lake Tahoe, California. It's actually on the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe, but we are so excited about that. And tickets are selling like hotcakes. We are definitely going to be selling out. So make sure if you do want to come to that, you get your tickets. We also have so many more things going on. But check out the website for all that's happening in and through the community. Today, I'm currently actually in Louisiana. Was in LA for a weekend. For the weekend, this past weekend, I had a wedding to go to. Actually, a woman that I met in this community actually got married this weekend in LA. So that was so fun to just see people who have been in this community go on to get married, and such a joy getting to just be a part of their day and just get to celebrate them. So that was this past weekend, but my husband and I are currently on a US tour. If you haven't heard about our US tour, we're super pumped. We actually renovated a fifth wheel and we're traveling around all throughout the United States. So we're currently in Louisiana, but we're planning on going so many other places from now until the end of the year, which is a long time, but so much fun. But today I really want to talk about the power of prayer, but then also walking out in faith, because I've seen it a lot. Even this past weekend, it was just such a testimony of God's goodness and the power of prayer, because this past weekend, watching Jen get married, we actually prayed for her future husband back in November 2021 when I went out to California to visit her. She took me to a spot that she loved, and she said, I want to get married here. And we prayed for her future husband right there and then. And one of the biggest things I saw at the wedding, when the maid of honors, there was a couple of them, there was two of them, were talking and sharing in their speech, was that they prayed for this. And how beautiful is it to be able to have friends who pray over you. But then there's also walking out and partnering with God in faith. And I think that's the aspect I want to look at today is the power of prayer. I've seen a lot of radical, amazing things happen through the power of prayer. I know a couple weeks ago I shared on here the prayer of healing and the healing power that came over my body, which was so cool. And just so beautiful to get to see God at work and God's power, and the Holy Spirit just truly come upon me. It was so beautiful. But then to also like end up with still pain, although the pain is minimal compared to what it was, and it's different than what it was. um I'm just leaning into that, and just getting to the realization that yes, prayer works absolutely. But I heard it this way once. Actually, I don't even know if I heard it this way, but I read similar things and I put it this way in our previous video that my husband and I just posted about our US tour recap. Was, if God heals you from lung cancer and then the next week you just pick up a pack of cigarettes and start smoking, like, is that really like, oh, God healed me, but then it came back, or is that your responsibility? And I think So often we don't look at these things. It's almost like we want to see, oh, the power of God, but we think that we don't really play a part in it. And so, yeah, I just want to remind you and encourage you that you have a part to play, that God put us on this earth with free will so that we could decide to partner with Him in faith, that He doesn't need us to partner with Him, but we have a job to do and we have a role to play. For example, even with my back pain, yes, I was healed radically. I've seen it. I experienced it. I felt His presence. It was amazing and incredible. And I still have pain. Now, the pain is different than it has been. But then I go into, okay, what do I have to do? Well, I know I need to continue to pray. I think last week we talked about putting on the full armor of God. What does that practically look like? How do I implement those things in my daily life? But then let's look at the almost even more practical side of things. Okay, what do I need to implement in my life? Well, I know that if my body is inflamed, if my body is bloated, if my body is feeding it processed foods and not foods that heal it, then I'm going to be more susceptible to chronic pain and chronic disease and conditions. And so, how do I practically now implement those things that will help me in my healing journey? And so this week, I've actually done two things that I think are going to make a huge difference over the next 6 months of my life. Is number one, I hired a business coach. Why? So at the beginning of the year, like since the beginning of the year, I felt this is a launching year. We're going out. This is the first year that we can legally break ground in the United States with what we're doing. And God sent us across the whole country. That's amazing. He's calling us to take new territory. Amazing. I see the expansion. We've seen record numbers all over the past 2 months. But how do we actually sustain the growth? How do we put in systems and strategies and structures in place to be able to handle where God is taking us? Because at the end of the day, I don't know what I don't know. And so I need to actually practically go out and do some things to be able to know what I need to know in order to sustain the growth that's coming. So this week I hired a business coach. He's a great friend of mine. I'm super excited about it. You've actually heard him here on the podcast before. And so I'm very excited just to have him on board to help me in the areas that I lack, because where I lack, someone else has knowledge and can come along and help. And yes, I could just pray, oh God, help me and give me wisdom. But it's like that story when someone says, well, the whole town was flooding and I prayed and I prayed and God kept sending people, and the guy was like, no, 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 God's gonna save me. No, 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 God's gonna save me. And God goes, well, I actually sent 3 people to save you, but you were too stubborn to actually accept their help. And so for me, that said, okay, I can absolutely be praying for the wisdom that I need to sustain this growth, but who can actually come alongside me to fill those gaps that I might have or may not even know and be oblivious to right now? So that was the first thing I did this week, and I'm super excited for that because I want to partner with God. Okay, God, I know that all this growth is coming from you. I know that I'm here right now because you called me to be here. I'm right here right now because you have literally spoken this into existence. But God, I know that I have a part to play. God could have easily called me on this tour back in April, and I could have said, okay, and just sat around and did nothing, hoping that this tour would come to pass. No, I had to go out and I had to find an RV. God absolutely provided the RV, hands down, no questions asked about it, for us, because there's so many specific things in this RV that like were our desire when things that we knew we would need on the journey where we're at now. Now, if I just sat on my couch and said, okay, God, cool, I'll tour, like, just give me all the things I need. It's like, well, yeah, but if I would have never walked in faith and walked in partner with him, would I be here right now? No, because I would have never driven the truck to get here. I would have just expected him to just place me here, right now. And so he spoke this, and so I want to be a faithful steward to say, okay, God, you spoke this. Now I see the growth, but now we need to be faithful stewards to actually be able to be equipped to handle the growth that we're seeing when it comes to this business. And so that's number one. Number two, I talked a lot of the last two podcasts about my healing and then also the pain coming back and having to put on the full armor of God. Now, I believe in prayer. I believe that's what your first response needs to be, absolutely, with everything. But then I do believe that we have a part to play. And so what is my part in my healing? What is my part saying, okay, God, I don't want to live with this pain forever. What do I need to do? How do I get to the root of the pain? Okay, I'm going to go and hire a functional health coach that's going to help guide me to go do the natural way of doing things, not just going to the doctor. I mean, not saying doctors are bad, not saying that if science is bad, not saying that medicine is bad, because there is a time and place for it. But I do believe, and I've seen stats that 90% of chronic pain, disease, things like that are actually from lifestyle and nutrition. So okay, how do I really clean up what I'm doing currently and really implement that into success in my future? Because I think that I really need to get to the root of the issue, not just put a band-aid on it, not just take pills that are going to mask the pain, but I'm never actually going to be healed. Not just eat a bunch of crap every day, processed foods, all the things that actually don't make my body feel good, that are actually making my body feel more inflamed or more bloated, that is not actually allowing my body to heal properly. And so, just like I believe if God says, someone is healed, but they go back to the same patterns of behavior they've always been doing, like, is it going to revert back? And so I was like, I need to do something for myself to be able to make sure I'm doing my part. I have a part to play in my healing journey. I have a part to play in walking out in this community in faith and seeing that God has already taken it so many amazing places. But how do I implement things that are going to give me the strength to get to the places He's taking me? And so I think it's a matter of, hey, what areas of my life do I need to like work out a little bit more, whether that is your health and wellness, like it is for me. Absolutely. I mean, the last 2 years not being able to be physically active, moving to a new country, a lot of transition, a lot of change. I went from single to married. I'm now living in an RV with my husband. Went through a incredibly stressful immigration process, well, two immigration processes. It's been so challenging, but that has played a part in affecting my body. And so now it's okay, let's get back to the root of things. Let's get back to the original design, how God created me to be. And the next was my business. I believe God is taking us to new spaces and new places and new territory. Okay, I need to make sure that I'm equipped for the journey to get there. For you, it may be your spiritual life. Okay, how do you, one of the things I started doing at the beginning of this year, which I've been slacking at for the last month, so maybe y'all can keep me accountable to this. But I was telling my husband that I want to learn more theology. I mean, I read the Bible and I can, quote the Bible, and I'm very good at like reading things and then literally being able to tell you what it says. But I've never went in deeper to like the theology of it. And so I said, like, I want to do more theology this year. And so my husband bought me a Theos university subscription. And yeah, it's just going deeper into scripture. And so that was amazing at the beginning of the year. I went through a couple segments of those, and maybe it's that for you. Maybe it's like, oh God, I feel dry in my spiritual life. How do I get back to that? Okay, maybe that's what it is. Or maybe it's your friendships, maybe it's your relationships in your life, maybe it's I need to get back to where my relationships and friendships were, and maybe I feel really isolated. But maybe you're not reaching out to some people, or you're not actually making the effort in your relationships that God has currently put you in your life. Or maybe you're not willing to be vulnerable enough to bring those relationships on a new level. I've dealt with things this week of people putting walls up and not able to share things they're going through, and all it does is make you feel so disconnected to them. And so yeah, be people that are willing to like be vulnerable in front of the right people, not the wrong people, but truly actually I feel like we're living in a day and age where people are feeling more disconnected and people are ashamed of being vulnerable, so they just don't. And then connections are so surface level rather than actually deep. And so I want to be someone who plays my part, who does my part when it comes to things that I'm partnering with God for. Maybe it's that you've been praying for a husband or a wife and you're listening to this and you're like, hey, but yeah, that's easy for you to say you're married. Well, no, no, no. I had to do the work. I truly was, both my husband and I, we did healing work before we ever even met each other. We had to surrender our lives. We fully had surrendered to the point of like, we knew walking this relationship, if this relationship ended tomorrow because God said to, we wouldn't have been broken. We wouldn't have been devastated. Yes, it would have sucked. Yes, it would have not felt good, but we would have been okay because we didn't attach ourselves to each other to be our end all be all. We truly were both so surrendered to the Lord that no matter what would happen between the two of us, we would be okay. We both did healing work. We both had things going on in our own lives. We both were at a point in our singleness that we weren't desperate for a spouse. We were like, God, where if this is what you want me to have, then amazing. Then send me the right person. But if it's not, then that's okay. And that is easier said than done, 100%. So don't think I don't empathize with your waiting season. But just know that like God wants your surrendered heart to him. And so yeah, I just encourage you this week, just to take inventory of your life. What areas of your life are feeling dry? What areas of your life have you been praying and praying and praying and praying for, but you haven't actually stepped out and partnered in faith with God for what you're believing for? I think of even the story of Mary, who literally like she just believed God at his word. Like she was told that she was gonna have a baby, and like she just went and told Joseph, okay, we're gonna have a baby. And like he was startled, but like she was just so confident, like, I know God's plan and I know this is probably crazy, but at the same time, like if God spoke it, then I'm here and I'm partnering with him, and I'm gonna walk out in faith and go and tell Joseph, knowing that God's got it all figured out. Even though she didn't know the outcome. I mean, if he wouldn't have stood by her side, like what would have that looked like in her life? And she just trusted God. She trusted that he knew what he was doing, but she also walked in faith. Um, and so I think it's just important that we, just like the man who was paralyzed, and Jesus says, grab your mat and walk. And he grabbed his mat and he walked. Like that's walking in faith. Like I believe I'm healed. I'm gonna walk. Okay. And so I think it's we need to play our part. And I've talked about this a lot, and I guess this is maybe a theme of the year, is just partnering with God in faith. And I've talked about it. I've wrote it in my newsletters. I've probably mentioned it on the podcast a few times, but I think it's so important. And I think that it's a theme because I see so many people praying and praying and praying for the same thing over and over and over again, but never really truly partnering with God, never truly walking out in faith, never truly doing their part that they have to play in the scenario. And so, yeah, I just want to encourage you to take inventory of your life. What is it that you're praying for that you haven't been preparing for? What is that you're praying for that you actually aren't playing your part? And then take inventory of that and then actually walk out and do what God has called you to do. So that's all I have for you guys today. Make sure you check out all the things that we have going on. My husband and I do a weekly recap on the YouTube channel, with everything that we have going on, all the recaps from our crazy adventure. So feel free to check those out, and check out everything else at our website at thechristiansingleshub.com. I hope this episode was encouraging. I hope this built your faith. And I truly hope that you take inventory of where you need to partner with God and where you need to play your part when walking out in faith. So have a great week, and we'll see you next week on another episode of An Apple a Day. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of An Apple a Day. If you liked today's episode, why don't you go like it, share it, subscribe, maybe even send it to a friend, and don't forget to review us. It helps so much. We look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same place on An Apple a Day podcast.